Good afternoon, Jan. How do you do?
Good morning, Michael. Doing fine. And you?
Excellent. Very good. Very good indeed. Yeah, I am on the on the final lap of preparing for my Kafka exam. So I'm going to get the what do they call it? Certified Confluent Kafka or uh, D- Certified Confluent Developer for Apache Kafka, CCDAC, DAK.
Oh,
Yeah, it's a huge
th-
acronym.
that's that will be the first question of the of the exam.
Yes,
What
yeah.
does this abbreviation means? So another
Ah,
certification.
yes, yeah, yeah. Confluent is one of Improving's partners, and we have been yeah, been pushing to get more of our developers CCDAK certified, so that we can demonstrate we can do this work you know, if we get work with our partners, so that way they can introduce us to their customers. We can introduce them to ours, and
Mhm.
works out better for everybody.
And for when is that exam?
That's on Friday. That's tomorrow. Yeah, tomorrow night, right
Yeah,
after work. Rush home.
just
Got to clean up all this mess because I'm gonna have a proctor looking through this camera.
you still have 24 hours and a
Yes.
night.
Yes. Yeah. There's a big old closet right there. There is some space in the closet, so most of it'll just shovel in there.
Mhm. Hey, but talking about certification,
Mm-hmm.
would that be would that be a way to attract people to Jinaga?
Yeah, that is a good question. How does what is the order? Um, so yeah, in this case, so with Apache Kafka, the certification helps a technology provider like Improving to 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 verify that we can
Mhm.
perform the task. We earn the business. Um, and so um, yeah, Improving has a few partners. Microsoft, of course, being one of our large ones.
Mhm.
AWS, Google Cloud, Databricks, Snowflake, and Confluent. I think those six are the big partners that we've got, and so they're all really well established, and people know that they're asking for those solutions. Plus,
Mhm.
all of them have a a sales team of their own that are doing the developer outreach, and the more than the developer outreach, they're doing the business outreach. So they are selling to the people that write the checks rather than the people that write the code, or in addition to. So which has to come first? Um, yeah, I think certification is lagging. That what would be leading would be um, more on the the developer support and um, the business support. So
Mhm.
um, so building a network, just like any sales, building a network of developers and of business owners, and selling them on the benefits of Janaga, and then the developer support. So training, documentation, um, uh, you know, yeah, online support through through Discord or through some other forum. Um, so I think that's where it starts, and then let that build, um,
Mhm.
and then yeah, now you've already got a program for developer support and training that then at the end of that program can be the certification. Um, so when you get to that point, I think you've already got a you know a group of people that have already gone through that training, and you can just reach out to them and say, hey, just do this one final step, and we'll give you a
Mhm.
certificate, and we'll put you on this list, and then people can find you.
Perhaps it would be something that would motivate people to spend more time in learning Jinaga. Um,
Mm-hmm.
I think that's where last time you told me you have very short periods to get people up to speed.
Yeah.
but in these 4 hours, it should be 5 minutes more. Um, um, and sometimes people say, "Oh, I want to have that certification," and they put some extra effort in it.
Yeah.
Whether that's the right drive, that's another question.
Uh-huh.
But
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah,
don't know.
that's. Um, I think. I think that the certification system that we currently use, like with CCDAK and with Microsoft certification, um, that it has become um, more about the the certification and less about the education that it takes to get there. Um, So, for example, in preparing for the CCADAK, I read the book, the definitive Kafka, or Kafka, the definitive guide. I also read an earlier book. Um, Trying to remember the name of that one, but that was an O'Reilly book that Confluent makes available online. Um, and then I read a whole bunch of documentation. Confluent puts out a series of short videos as well. I find the videos are not really all that great for preparing for the exam. They're great overview, but they're not they're not really structured for getting you ready for the exam. And I don't think they're also it's structured just getting you ready for developing a Kafka solution. So but the biggest thing that I did was I bought some practice tests and just went through those practice tests and found so many errors in the practice tests themselves that I had very little confidence that these were representative of the real thing. If I get in there on Friday and there's a whole bunch of these grammatical and factual errors in the real thing, I was like, this is, yeah, but I doubt that that's the case. Um, so it looked like, in order to create the practice test, people just combed through the documentation and then copied parts of it out and restructured them to make them into questions. And in some cases, when there are factual errors, it's because when you read the documentation, there's a certain word or phrase that's used in context that makes sense in that context. But then you take it out of context and you think that it might mean something different. And so when they rewrote the text, you can kind of see they got this idea from that word, but that's not what that word means. Yeah. One example. So there's something called the registry, the schema registry, that whenever you've got a Kafka producer and it's putting a message into a Kafka topic, it will check its local cache to see if the schema for that message, whether it be JSON or Avro or what's the other one? It's the one that gRPC uses, protobuf. One of those three schemas. It checks to see, is this schema already in my local cache? If not, the producer is going to push that schema into the registry. So and then put a little magic code into the schema so that when there's a different way that schemas are attached to topics. I'll have to remind myself how that works again. But then on the consumer side, the consumer connects to a topic, starts reading messages from it, and it said, well, I don't have the schema in my local cache for understanding this message, so I'm going to contact the schema registry and pull that down. Now, the schema registry has this really cool feature that it will protect you against breaking changes. So if you push a new version of a schema into the schema registry that is not backward compatible, then it will throw an exception when you're trying to push that that schema. So you have trying to remember what are the backward compatible changes, what are the forward compatible changes, but backward compatible means that a newer version should be able to read an older message. So if you delete, for example, if you delete a property and that property was required, then the newer version won't be able to read it. So deleting a property is not a forward compatible change, and the schema registry will throw an exception. So the question that was derived from that part of the specification or of the documentation was, where, which components will validate forward compatibility of your data. And so they changed the word schema to data. And that word made me think, okay, you're validating the message. So the the message is validated against the schema by the consumer. So the consumer reads the message. It's got the schema that should match. It's going to try to deserialize it. If it doesn't deserialize, the consumer will respond in one of three ways, which we could list. But it's the consumer that's doing that failure when it's the data that is invalid. But the answer that they intended to be correct was schema registry. And that would imply that every time the consumer reads a message, it sends it to the schema registry. It says, here, validate this for me, and gets back the answer and then does its work. That would be incredibly slow. Kafka is not designed like that. It's designed for everything to be fast, local cached, just as much in memory as possible. There's even a really cool feature that it's limited in its ability, but if you can turn it on, it's pretty cool. That it basically maps its storage straight to the storage data straight to the network layer. So it doesn't have to copy any data in order to read some messages and send them out. It's just like right there, go. So that's really fast. But you can only use that if you are not using HTTPS, because HTTPS would have to encrypt it, and a few other caveats. But if you can use it, that's really awesome. But yeah, that's the thinking that went into Kafka, and then this question implies that Kafka does something that is totally against its values.
Perhaps the questions are made by people who don't really know the system.
Yeah, I was beginning to suspect that, at least for some of them. But yeah, nevertheless, using the practice tests helped me to have a goal-directed research methodology. So it's like, I need to find the answer to this question. So now I can read the documentation for that answer. And then once I find that answer, I can expand it. You know how you, when you use Wikipedia, sometimes you're just like in a browsing mode and you find something on Wikipedia and then you follow a link to something else and you're just searching the Wikipedia graph. So I allow myself to do that through the Kafka documentation for a little bit until I get bored with that, and then, okay, let's go back to the next question I got wrong or that I was unsure about. So yeah,
in that way, you go between very targeted questions and general knowledge about the system.
Yeah. And I think that that's going to be a good strategy for, not only for passing the test, but then also for when actually using Kafka, having that information not memorized per se, but at least I know what the values of Kafka are. How if I were to have done that, how would I have done that? And kind of help my brain lock onto the right Kafka type design.
Yeah, you will pass.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I'm mostly looking forward to having those evenings that I've been studying for the test open to working on the Code Launch app or other other Janaga things.
Anyway, I need your help again.
Excellent. Yes, I saw that there were some commits.
But there was not much that I sent through, I think, because the basic thing is not working. Let me share some things in Zoom, Visual Studio. Yeah, you should be seeing this.
Okay, I'm getting it
So
loaded up right
wait,
now.
where did we get from here? Yeah, there was some problems in the model for yard. We will come back to that later. Okay. Then last time I said that there was the assignment of a task to a worker was not yet in the model. That was not true.
Oh,
Here it is.
okay.
You did put it in. Now the assignment of working hours and all that is not there yet. But there are other things with the model where we are getting later. But one of the things we needed first, before we can assign working hours to a task, is have workers in the system. And already there it's going wrong. So what I did, first of all, in my Jinaga config, I added this one.
Okay.
Create sample workers.
Yeah.
So the supplier was created with this single use. But so we don't need that for the workers. For the workers, we just use the supplier. And we use just a user with a private key, whatever is the private key.
Yeah.
So I created a number of workers. Then we have to bind the new task dialog. Then we have to bind these workers to that combo box here.
Yes.
This one here. Because for the moment there was nobody in there. So I said, okay, my item source, that will be an observable collection of workers. I have a worker view model with a property name, observable property. And I have selected items. I bind it to the selected worker.
Okay.
So if I go and have a look to that worker view model, so I just have my property name.
Right, with the observable property, so that gives you the capital N name. Yep.
Then I added to my new task view model, I added an observable collection of worker view models. These are the workers to which that becomes my item source.
Yep.
I have my worker observer. I load my workers. I unload. No, I check whether the observer is ready. I unload them. And when I load my workers, what did I did? So the worker and the names of the workers.
Oh, okay, yeah.
My
Okay.
no, okay. Because these names.
That's a really compact way of saying it, yeah.
Yeah, but so that's a relation I added where I refer to the username. Because in the model we have the user. A user can be a dispatcher, can be a worker.
Right.
So let's have a look at that one. So that was with workers here. Here, a worker. So worker existed. I added a revoked, and is revoked condition. So that's just all the facts where which is not revoked, and there is no restore. Restore was not foreseen, so I added a restore fact as well.
Ah, okay. Yes, nice.
And so I added a revoke date.
Yes.
To the. But why did you name it revoke for worker instead of delete? Was this?
I don't know.
Because most of the time you use delete,
yeah.
and here it was revoke. So.
Yeah, I usually use revoke when the fact gives somebody some authorization. So I might have been thinking that the worker fact gives the user authorization to see stuff inside of the supplier, and so therefore it would be a revoke. But yeah, I think that feels right. That feels like what I would have been thinking when doing that pattern.
That sounds reasonable.
Yeah.
And then I added names, and here it's a little bit special. So where name.user, because name is a successor to user.
Yes.
Is so the worker dot the user. And there are no prior facts.
Perfect. Yes.
So that was a little bit special. Where were we? The new task view model. So I loaded my workers. I added them to my workers collection. So this should be okay. For the rest, and the moment that I saved, where is it here? If the selected worker is not null, then I just save a task worker fact, which links the worker to the task.
Yeah, makes sense.
But so when I run all this, something is wrong with the binding. I think I missed more than 5 minutes to solve that. Wait, I need to stop the sharing here again, and where is he? Range, where's the application? Ah, here. Yeah. Find a solution for this. Another one. So here, do you see the worker?
It's off the bottom of the screen.
Wait, I will shift it. Now it should be visible.
Yes.
Is that?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
Okay.
So you see, it binds to the worker view model.
Okay.
But why not to the name?
Yes, I think I saw the reason in passing. So what I saw is that you're using text as the property on the combo box and binding that to the name property. I think that that means something different. I think the text binding on a combo box is for editing. If it's an editable combo box, that's the text that that they'll be typing in.
Okay.
So I think this is an item template thing.
So what I'm missing here is an toString method then.
No. Well, that would actually solve it. Yeah, what I was thinking is that we could use an item template, but toString would be the easier way to go. Let's just go that way, yeah. And you can take the text binding off altogether.
Right. where was I in my worker view model?
Yeah.
Because I saw the same thing in the, where was it? My yard
Yeah, we
view
did that in the
model
yard.
here.
Yeah. Yeah. Now that okay, so
Yeah, but
there is one problem with doing the two string. You don't get notify property changed. So in this case, client name is client name mutable or immutable on this view model. Let's scroll up and see how it's declared. Yeah.
um, my
So
name is,
okay, it's an
yeah.
observable property, so that means it's immutable. Something is going to be changing client name. So um, so we're probably getting lucky, and everything um, is resolving before it binds. But if we get unlucky and it's still loading things, and we've already bound, then we've
Mhm.
gotten the old client name, which might actually just be empty. Um, so yeah, so this kind of has that problem too. Um, yeah, so in the case
Mhm.
of the worker,
And
yeah, we'll
well, we
probably
should,
be okay. um, but there are yeah, so
what is the better, what is the better solution?
yeah, the better solution would be to create a template for the combo box, an item template.
Okay. So that was a new task. And I think that's what we did for the yard.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, because
wait,
that one has a really complex multi-column template. So
yeah,
yeah,
here, yard template.
yeah. So if we do the same thing for
And
worker, then it's simpler. We can just have a text block
mm,
inside of the
wait,
data
and
template.
how was that yard template? How was that
Yeah,
thing working?
you see the bindings that were inside of the yard template. So um, yeah, and in fact here you see the text binding, but that's because client name that combo box is client name, so you can type in a client
Mhm.
name, and so client
Yeah.
name is a property on the new task view model.
Okay. Wait. So, um, where is that? Here. So this one we remove.
Yeah.
We changed. We make this worker
Mm-hmm.
template selected, and then that yard template. Where was that thing defined?
Yeah.
We just have to
Mm-hmm.
create a sim. Oh, what I will do.
Yeah. So right now you're inside of the yard template, so you would have to go all the way down to the closing brace
Um,
before you paste it.
wait, this thing. It opens here and it closes there. No.
No.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's not a slash
Yeah.
close. So the grid is inside
No,
of it.
no. I see. Um, what did I do? Why is it not? Wait.
Yeah. So you
Control
still
V,
have data
Control
template,
C.
data template. Um, yeah. So you just need so on line 10, that's your opening data template. Line 11, go ahead and delete that one. Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Now, now I'm there.
Yeah.
Um, so that one is starting here, is going until
Yeah.
there. And so what do we have inside all that? Okay.
Yeah. In this case, we've
Um,
got a full grid inside of it because we need multiple columns. But for the worker data template, we don't need all that.
mhm. So data template, that becomes worker template.
Mm-hmm.
Data type is my worker view model.
Yes.
And then, so here was a grid inside.
Yeah, we don't need the grid. We can just do text
No.
block. That's all that we need.
So
yeah, we can get rid of the column and
need.
yeah.
Binding goes to the names. Was it names?
Just name. So yeah, you can see the IntelliSense because you set the data type.
Yep.
IntelliSense is helping you out. So why is it complaining about margin? I don't know. Yeah. So after we take a look at it, we might actually get rid of the margin because the margin might expand your list out and make it too big. But yeah, let's go ahead. Yeah, let's see it. Yeah.
Let's make it without margin. Wait, share. Is that the main window? Show at.
There it is.
Yeah. There. So take this one. Say
5-minute fix.
I don't have an edit yet, so I cannot check whether everything is saved as it should be. Take a second client. Let's make Michael work a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, he has to do something.
No exceptions, so he might be saving it. We will see.
Yeah, we'll see.
Once I add an edit button, then we can open that screen again.
Nice.
But so that was the little work that was done. Now let's go back to the model. I'm going to share here is the old model that we made. Let's see my list here. Okay. So we discussed about approved. Remember the tools.
Right. Yes.
The tools were here. We had tools on the fly. We had tools approved. So I changed that in the model, but I didn't change that in the software yet. So in the what was it called? In VS Code, in that notebook. In the notebooks,
yeah, the Polyglot
I
notebook.
left it, but I didn't change it in the software, apparently, because I still found it back. But we had this approved, but now there are two possibilities. Something that is approved, something that is not approved yet. My first idea was to only show it to the worker who defined a non-approved tool. But if we want to do that, then we need to have to know who created that
yes.
that tool.
True.
That's one thing. Second thing, that means that for every tool we have to provide an approved fact, except a few ones. Would it not be more interesting to invert it? And for these exceptional facts, tools that they add themselves, we add a fact non-approved, or for example, created by.
Okay, I see. Yes, yeah.
And then, if it is approved, then we add an approved flag to that created by.
Yes.
So that means that
Hmm.
items which have no successors are public for everybody,
Mm-hmm.
and items with created by followed by approved, they are also available for everybody.
Yeah. Okay. That introduces a small window. Um, because you want to make something visible to everybody. If it doesn't have a successor, it's
Yeah.
possible that something that really does have a successor, the successor just hasn't made it to your system yet. Um,
Mm.
and
That's
so, yeah, you might
yeah.
see a flash of something that you shouldn't, and that flash might be a
Mhm.
long, a long time. There's really no way of saying. Um,
So it's not best practice.
yeah, but if we were to flip that order, I do like that idea of inverting it so that you're only keeping facts for the exceptional cases. Um, but if you were to make that a predecessor, it could be an optional predecessor, so a nullable user. Um, and then yeah, if the user is null, then it's visible to everybody. Um, if the user is not null, then it's only visible to that user until you have a successor. And now the successor makes something visible. So you're going in the right direction.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, Now I'm thinking about an alternative to that. So it could be that null means it's uh, it's available to everybody. It could also mean that if the creator is a dispatcher, then it's available to everybody. Would that be?
But it could also
Yeah.
be imported. Could be
Yeah.
an
Okay.
imported.
Yeah. Yeah. It wouldn't be the dispatcher
Yeah.
that did it then. Um, yeah. Uh, so yeah, in the model you would have user facts that represent service principals that are actually doing that import. So so yeah, it could be is it a dispatcher or is it a service principal? Um, yeah, I don't see much advantage in that where null is perfectly fine. Yeah, so uh, in order to truly answer the question, we would have to think about how would we write the authorization rule. When you say, here is a tool, who is allowed to create this tool? Um, so, so if the tool has a creator predecessor, then that authorization rule could be, this tool's creator is allowed to create the tool, which seems like a tautology, but what that's actually saying is that you can't spoof it. Um,
Mhm.
you can create a tool all you like, but people can see that it was you that did it, and then other rules can be based on that. Um, so if it's optional, if it's a nullable user, then that means that authorization rule would not be sufficient to authorize the tool's creation if it's null. Um, it would work if it's not null, but yeah, if it's null, it would say, oh, not authorized according to this rule. And so you would have to have an additional rule. Yeah, I could see the additional rule being, um, yeah, or it's this tool is created by go all the way up to supplier, a worker or not a worker, yeah, specifically not a worker, but a dispatcher of this supplier, or a
Mm.
service principal of this supplier. Um, okay, yeah, that works for authorization. And then for distribution, um, yeah, if you can ask the question, then you can turn that question into a distribution rule. So yeah, can you ask the question? Um, what tools are available? So you would ask one question: what tools have I created? And then you would ask another question: what tools are in this supplier?
Mhm.
Um,
The union of the two.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, and then you could use a where not exists in order to filter out the tools that somebody else has created. Yeah, okay. It all works. It all works. Okay, yeah. I might have to watch back of the the recording to follow that and put all, that all together. But yeah, I think that is the right choice. So yes, yes, what you were saying. Invert the rule, so you only have a creator if it's something that the worker has created, but make that a predecessor, not a successor. And I think we got it.
And then because then we still have the approved.
Mm-hmm.
And so the approved is a successor of the tool then.
Yes, yeah, that would be a successor. Yes.
Yeah. Because that opens it again for everybody. So
Yep.
creator, tool, approved. Okay.
Yes. Yes.
Now, another option I was thinking about, but that's a user interface thing, is that we could just say, if somebody creates something, it's immediately visible for everybody else,
Mm-hmm.
but it's marked in a type of danger color.
Mm. Okay.
But okay, that's
Yeah.
a user interface thing. So people can use it immediately if they would, for example, be working at the same customer
Mm-hmm.
and they need the information. But they have a warning that it's something which has not been approved yet.
Right. Right. Yeah. Yeah. And yeah, I think that fits. You would still have an authorization rule that the the creator must be a worker of this uh, for this supplier, and so yeah, you can't just have random data showing up on people's interfaces. You can't have unauthorized facts in there. Um, yeah, yeah, I think that works, and I think that I can see uh, I can see business value in that decision.
Good. What else? Another problem we have in the current. So, and here it was better, but not okay yet. What was it? We have a task, and in our current model, task is a successor of yard. And before we did it differently. Before we had this go-to fact.
Mm. Oh, okay.
And I think that's better because now you defined a yard and the successor is a task.
Mm-hmm.
So you can never change it anymore.
Right. Yeah. Which seems to make sense in this domain. Yeah.
Yeah, because it's very well possible a customer calls and you don't know exactly which location, so you leave it empty. You have the customer, but you don't know where to go.
Right.
So I think it's better that we go back to this system where we
Yeah.
have a go-to fact, which is a successor of task and yard.
Mm-hmm.
What else did I write down here? And then in this model, we have a direct link between yard and client.
Yes.
But I
Do we
can
not have
imagine that. Why did I take the other one here? Let me see. Let's switch to the other one. Where is that one? So now you should, yeah. So you see here the client and here the yard.
Yeah, yeah. So that is in the.
So the task is a successor of yard. But
are you thinking that that might need to change?
Well, I can imagine a yard that has been sold to another customer.
Mm-hmm.
And the follow-up of yards is important. For example, the amount of fertilizer that has been used during the years, the amount of production,
Mm.
for the yield of that ground.
Okay. So retaining all of that work history for that
Yeah.
yard, that identity is important.
So we might
Yeah.
want to put yard on the same level as client and as worker. So put it here
Mm-hmm.
as a direct successor of supplier,
Yeah.
and have a success effect,
Yeah.
owner of, between
Yeah.
client and yard.
Yeah. Yeah. And that would be an entity reference. So the yard is
Yeah.
basically referencing its owner client. So if you change the owner, you're changing uh, that reference to a new client. Yeah.
It can be
Yeah.
sold to somebody else.
Yeah.
Does that make
Yeah.
sense?
Yeah. I think it does. Um,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. It does open up the possibility of a yard in the model being owned by two different clients. There's no way to constrain that. Um,
Yeah.
and that would basically be a concurrent edit of that entity reference. I mean, it's just like the mutable property
Mm-hmm.
pattern, except it's got a predecessor reference. Um, so yeah, if you can make that either make sense or um, or make that show up as an error. Um, so it's like, hey, this yard has two owners. Fix this. Or if you're drilling down through the client, then in one client you see the yard, and in the other client you see the yard. Um,
Mm-hmm.
maybe if you've drilled down into that yard, then you can have um, a query that's looking, okay, does this yard have more than one owner? So make it visible there. Yeah.
But but
But
but
yeah, all that
anyway,
works.
because that's another thing. Now, at this moment, task is referring to yard,
Mm-hmm.
but so and and in that way it
Uh-huh.
knows automatically the client. But so in
Yeah.
the new system, task will refer to client and to yard,
Yeah.
and that's perfectly
Yeah.
logical,
Makes sense.
because usually for work on a yard, it's the owner of the yard who pays.
Mm-hmm.
But it might very well be that somebody else pays.
Right.
I don't
And
I
you,
don't know why, but you have uh, a yard, and there has work to be done, paid by a third party.
okay, yeah.
The- Yeah.
So you could
So
have third parties in the system that are clients that don't even own any yards.
yeah.
Yeah. Okay. That makes a lot of sense. And it also retains that history. So when the yard is sold to a different client, you can still see all the
Mm-hmm.
old tasks, and you can see that uh, those tasks were for that old client. So that old client paid for
Yeah.
them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That really aligns the model with the business domain.
Mm-hmm.
Those are good changes.
What else did I wrote down here? Yeah, task worker was already in a model. Yeah. Oh yeah. One thing uh, which really annoyed me is that .NET Interactive, the
Uh huh.
notebooks, Git is not usable with it. You
That's
can
true.
you
Yeah.
can save them in Git, but if you say what has changed,
Yeah. You get this big mess.
uh,
Yeah.
yeah, it's a big mess, and
Yeah.
that's
You
a
get
pity.
execution counts changing. It's like, I don't care about
Yeah,
execution count.
yeah, and that's a pity.
Yeah.
Um, and I'm wondering, is there a solution for that? Um,
Yeah.
if you want to go through what did we changed in the model,
Mm-hmm.
um, compared to last time.
Yeah, that is true. I think that's another uh, another arrow pointing in the direction of having Factual Studio uh, come along and replace Polyglot notebooks. Um,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, because the idea with Factual Studio is that you would store the model in just regular text files. They would basically be factual code. It that code wouldn't compile to C# or to TypeScript. You could generate C# or TypeScript from it. Maybe well, I don't know if I want to go as far as making that part of the build process, but at the very least, you should have interactive tools that would let you build and visualize the model straight from those text files. And so now you can just check in the text files and you can see the diffs, and that all works well. Yeah, and there's another reason that I've been thinking that Factual Studio is going to be absolutely necessary as a replacement for Polyglot notebooks, and that is that well, several different reasons. This one's the most exciting though. MCPs, so Model Context Protocol, so plugins for LLMs that basically they're wrappers around APIs so that you can call something. But those APIs don't necessarily need to be like remote APIs. There are MCPs around Git, so you can use this MCP in order to control Git locally on your machine, or MCPs around Postgres, and that Postgres can be the one that's right there on your machine. Use that MCP in order to query your Postgres database. So yeah, I've been kind of playing around with MCPs. Now imagine that you've got an MCP that is a wrapper around these factual files in your workspace, just right there on the hard drive. So now you're using the LLM and asking it to make changes to the model on your behalf, but it's doing so through this deterministic layer that knows what changes are valid. So rather than what we do with LLMs right now, just generate some code, it's very easy for it to generate invalid code. But if there's a tool and it says, rather than change this text file, it's add a fact. The fact name is this, and the properties are this, and the predecessors are these. And then that tool knows to generate that factual code to be valid, because that would just be a deterministic tool, just a code generator. And then maybe there's another tool that says, modify this fact type in order to add a predecessor, for example. And now that tool not only knows how to make that change to the text, but it also understands what the consequences will be to the specifications that you've got in your workspace. So, because I've added that, that predecessor, this distribution rule over here is going to be broken, or whatever. Maybe it can even help you with versioning, kind of like the Kafka thing that I was talking about at the beginning. There's a tool that knows how Kafka versions things. This would be a tool that knows how Janaga versions things. So yeah, then the MCP is just something you install within your own environment. You can use whatever LLM you happen to like, and so I think that gives you that gives you that experience. It fixes the Git problem. It gives you the visualizations so you can modify the model yourself, but then it also gives you that plugin for the LLMs so you can express your intent, and then it can build the model. So yeah, I think that's the way to go.
Now, a temporary solution would be to save the dot file of the model. And then long ago we spoke about exporting the dot file from the notebooks.
Yes.
And if I remember what you said, in fact, for the graphics now that you show in the notebooks, what you do is in fact make a dot file.
Yeah.
Was it already available, that export, or not yet?
Yes, it's a little trick, a little hack to do that. The using statement at the top of your notebook, where you have using Janaga notebooks, you put .dot at the end of that.
Okay.
And then you have to restart the kernel because it's already got the old one cached. But once you do that, and then you run everything, instead of graphs, it outputs the dot notation.
inside the file.
Yes.
Okay, and then we can just each time that we have like a final intermediate version, you can just copy and paste that in a separate file,
Yeah.
and commit that to Git.
Yeah. In fact,
And
I
in that
think.
way,
Yeah, I think the diagram that we were just looking at, where you've got everything flowing from right to left, I think we generated it that way. Is that we switched it to .dot, generated the file from the notebook, and then put that into its own file and changed the rankeder instead of yeah, yeah,
it's
yeah,
very well
DOT.
possible.
Yeah.
I remember there was we spoke about it, but now that you say the dot extension in the using, something says, yeah, I remember something, but
Yeah.
I will write it down, so next time I will not forget it.
Yeah. 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 That'll definitely help. It'll be a great interim step, because that will be that will be friendly to version control. And
It's a
yeah, you
readable
can
text file.
view that outside of the notebook as well. Yeah.
Okay. I
Yeah.
think that was all for the questions.
This is all making me want to get back to Factual Studio. It's like, okay, let's get the Kafka test out of the way. Let's get code launch out of the way. Let's get this Pluralsight course out of the way. Factual Studio, all the way.
There you have so many things at the same time. But okay.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, I do a little bit progress, a little bit by each week, but every time I see there is a lot of things I don't know.
Yeah.
But okay, learning.
Yes, indeed. Yeah. Okay. Well, yeah, just about time to wrap up. One quick thing I wanted to ask. I think we are at a place in DWS that it would be good to add an IOC container. The last time we talked, we changed the way that it was creating the child view models in order to add a new property to the constructor, and it's like, okay, that's the kind of change that the IOC container will automate for you. So I'm thinking that I can give you a branch that adds an IOC container by next week, and what I would recommend for this would be the container called autofac. So there is a default container in that Microsoft ships that really common. Lots of people know it, but it's not as feature rich as some of these specialty containers. And autofac has always been my favorite, specifically because of view models. And so autofac, its name implies that it creates factory functions. So that's, I haven't really seen other IOC containers that do that. But yeah, now you can inject a function into your parent view model that it could call with just the parts that change. I want you to create a child view model for this entity. That's the only property or the only parameter that you send to the factory. But that child view model requires other things like the generic client and the processor. Yeah, the command processor. So so the IOC container takes care of some of those things, but then the others come in through the factory function. And autofac just does that so clean. So yeah, I think I would like to add autofac to the project.
Okay, I will have a look at it as well. Because I think we have the big lines are there. I have a little bit of cleanup to do with all the model changes, but it's the moment to introduce these IOC containers.
Yeah. Yeah, I think we've gotten to that line where now we can see why we need one, and
Mm-hmm.
if we keep going further, then not having one is going to slow us down, and it's going to make it more difficult to have one in the future. So this seems like the right time.
Okay, great idea.
All right, I will present that next week.
Good. Michael, a lot of success tomorrow,
Thank you so much.
and see you next week.
Yep, see you then.
And of course, you will succeed.
Yes, yes, it's looking good.
Okay, bye bye.
All right, bye.